Hello. So today we'll take a look at a few aspects of vocabulary, idioms, proverbs, foreign words and figures of speech. All very important from the perspective of law entrance. We'll take a look at all these words. Now remember, though you at times in some mock paper, in some actual tests, you definitely will get questions based on this. And even when you talk about reading comprehension or critical reasoning for that matter, having a good vocabulary is always going to be helpful because you would be that much better at comprehending everything. So without wasting any time, let's cut past the chase to the outcome. I think all of you would have received this booklet on your WhatsApp. Remember, the booklet contains this title. We are going to take up all questions, as many questions as possible from this booklet in this particular lecture. So let's look at the first 5 questions. Find the word that is closest in meaning to the word given in question, in the question. Find the word which is closest in meaning. So you are talking about synonyms. Right? So the first is hydrosis. Now even if you don't know the meaning of this word, you can guess. Hydro is usually related to water and hydrosis is a process of losing water if we talk about the etymology of the word. So here there are 2 options which fit. First is dehydration and second is sweating. But dehydration is more a medical condition rather than a process of losing water. So the correct answer has to be sweating, which is option C. You can eliminate 2 options easily because to hinder is to prevent or to obstruct something. And hinder is the verb form. The noun form of this word is hindrance. For example, arrogance is a big hindrance to success in life. That means it's a huge obstacle. And this option D is humdrum, which means routine or monotonous. So these options can be eliminated because they have got nothing to do with hydrosis. The only options you might be confused about are dehydration and sweating is the obvious answer. Let's try to make a sentence with the word humdrum. Can we link up Salman Khan's movies and humdrum? So a sentence with using humdrum would be like, Salman Khan movies are very popular because they provide a break from the humdrum of daily existence. Okay, that's how you'll use it in a sentence. Let's look at question 2, impervious. Try to think of a sentence in which you'll fit the word impervious. He was trained in the army. So even after torture, he did not break down. He did not reveal any information. It seemed as if he was impervious to pain. It seems as if he was impervious to pain. So impervious here would mean unreceptive. The things are not going inside. And remember, in order to be successful in life, you have to be impervious to praise and very porous when it comes to criticism. So impervious, the obvious answer here has to be unreceptive. That is option Delhi, option 4. Impeccable is perfect. He is a person of impeccable manners, very polished, smooth or sophisticated. Manipulative, we all know. And weak, W-E-A-K, we all know. Weak is very kamzor, जिसको हम बोलते हैं. Quagmire. Question 3 is quagmire. Now quagmire this is a tough one because if you look at options A and B, option A is quandary and option B is talking about a swamp. The word quagmire is used in both the senses. You can use the word quagmire even when you are describing a situation where a person has to decide between 2 things and is not able to decide. You can use the word quagmire there also. He found himself in a quagmire when it came to deciding the order in which he had to solve the sections in CLAT. That means he was in a quandary or he was in a dilemma. The word quagmire can also be used there, and quagmire literally means a swamp, जिसको हम हिंदी में दलदल बोलते हैं. Another word for swamp is mire, M-I-R-E. If you have read Sherlock Holmes and the Hound of the Baskervilles, you would remember something called the Grimpenmire, into which the villain is finally, which sucks in the villain finally. So both the words fit, but the point is, whenever you are faced with such a choice, rather than go for an option which is metaphorically correct or symbolically correct, you should go in for an option which is literally correct. Please keep that in mind. And this option, remember, is metaphorical. And this is literal. So obviously, remember, if this option would not have been given, this would have been the answer. But since both are given, you don't go for the metaphorical one and you mark the literal one. So here the answer has to be swarm. Remember, not a puddle, because puddle is not something in which one is sucked into. I mean, थोड़ी बारिश गिरी सड़क पे, कहीं तो भी थोड़ा पानी जमा हो गया, उसको puddle बोलते हैं. तो quagmire essentially means you get sucked into it. That's why answer has to be Bangalore. The question number 4 is ardent. Ardent is fervent or very passionate about something. He was an ardent admirer of Formula 1. Even ardent admirers of cricket feel that too much cricket is being played nowadays, right? So that is ardent, that is fervent or passionate. Dispassionate, remember, would be the antonym, and we are on synonyms. Option 4 says apathetic, so here we'll discuss 4 words. The root is pathos, which means emotion. And what kind of an emotion is being displayed? You have 4 words for that. You have sympathy, empathy, apathy, and antipathy. So sympathy is to know what the other person is going through. Empathy is to put yourself in other people's shoes and experience what they are experiencing. Sympathy is a minor waste of time. Empathy is a bigger waste of time according to the 21st century materialistic philosophy. No. Apathy is to not care at all. Once a teacher walked into a class, vocab teacher, and asked the student, stand up. So he stood up. And the teacher said, tell me the meaning of apathy. The student stood like this and said, sir, I don't know and I don't care. And the teacher said, excellent, that is the correct answer. Because that is what apathy actually means. There is one more word which has the same meaning, but because of maybe the difficulty of spelling this on WhatsApp, it's not used. Insouciant. This also has the same meaning as apathy. Lacking concern, to be absolutely indifferent. Remember, this has come from the French word souci, which means care. And there is another French term which is commonly used, sans souci. Sans in French is without. If you remember Shakespeare's poem, The 7 Stages of Man, that's how life ends. Sans eye, sans ear, sans smell, sans nose, sans mouth, sans everything. So sans is without. So sans souci, this is a French term which means without a care in the world. और यहाँ से word आया है insouciant, which means apathetic. So remember, apathy, insouciant, indifferent. All the three words mean the same. Anti, this is starting with A-N-T-I, that's how Americans pronounce it, I guess. Antipathy is a feeling of hatred, dislike or revulsion. Okay, remember, this is what etymology is about. You take one root and you try to figure out as many words as possible from the same root. So that would be question 4. Question 5, impudence. You are supposed to find a synonym for impudence. Impudence would mean excessively brave, right? And impudence is always used in a negative sense. For the positive sense, you will say bravery, right? You will say valor. You might even use a very interesting word to indicate audaciousness, that is huspe. Incorrectly pronounced by Shahid Kapoor as chutzpah in Haider. So that is huspe, which also means audacity, bravery. valor. So these are positive words. Huspe is on the dividing line, but when you say impudence or audacity, these are used in a negative sense. You need to be audacious, you need to be brave. There's a difference between the two. So the synonym for impudence would be audacious. The other words given in the options are similar or very easy. Shallow is superficial, not having a lot of depth. The opposite of shallowness, a very interesting word, would be profundity. Profundity is depth. It's a very profound concept. One of the most profound texts on this planet is the Bhagavad Gita, for example, because it has a lot of philosophical depth. Shallowness is जिसको मध्य प्रदेश के लोग सतही बोलेंगे, on the surface, superficial, not having any depth. Resistance is a very simple word. So these are the first set of 5 questions and these are synonyms. Now we'll go to questions 6 to 10 where you have been given a word, and I hope all of you are going through the material along with me because it's very important. We need to keep a close eye. Remember, the idea is to score as many marks as possible, not to become as knowledgeable as possible. Let's be very clear on that. So 6 to 10, find the word that is opposite in meaning to the word given in the question. So from 6 to 10, what you are looking out for are antonyms. And here's where listening to a lot of English actually helps. For example, 3 to 4 days ago, I was watching this movie. It was about a court case that was going on. The movie was called A Few Good Men. And in that, a vakil, an advocate, is constantly questioning the witness. And the other lawyer stands up and says, "Objection, my lord, this irrelevant badgering of the witness is unnecessary." And I immediately recollected, "Arey, ye question to CL ke material mein hai." Got the idea? That's how watching English movies in English, where people sit and talk to each other, not movies where a god with blonde hair comes from some other planet carrying a hammer in his hand. Those movies are not going to improve your vocabulary. So watching English movies in English where people sit and talk and these words are used, they really are very helpful. So as I was saying, 6 to 10 you want antonyms, and the question number 6, the word given is badger. To badger somebody is to incessantly go on, continuously keep on asking him questions, keep on troubling him, maybe keep on hounding him. Always ask him to do something, nagging type, but with a question. That is called badgering. And you want antonyms. So options are goad. Goad is also to gently motivate someone to do something, right? Like your parents goad you to do better. Your parents goad you to study more. You are millennials. Our parents never goaded us. No. Their style of goading was different. Let's not go there. So that is goad, to gently motivate. Hound, किसी को परेशान कर देना, किसी का पीछा कर देना, constantly follow somebody. Hassle is a lot of trouble. Remember, badger is a negative word. Options A, B and C, D are all negative. So the answer to this question has to be please. To please somebody is to do what that person wants, to make him happy. So the answer here has to be please. Question 7 is banal. Banal is used for something which is very repetitive. It has been repeated so often that it has lost all novelty. Remember, banal is the adjective, banality is the noun. Nowadays, most of the motivational speakers are restricted to uttering banalities, which have absolutely no impact on the minds of the young. That is banality. आपने इतनी बार बोल दिया है कि उसका भी कोई मतलब ही नहीं है. For example, one of my favorite banalities is know yourself. Everybody says this. The secret to being successful is to know yourself. So next time somebody says this, just ask him how. Suppose I am a person who is really interested in knowing what I am. Do you have any trick? Nobody has that trick. Anyway, so that's a banality. अब ये मीनिंग कन्वे करने वाले काफी सारे वर्ड्स हैं. यू हैव ट्राइट, स्टेल, overused, hackneyed. ये सबके मैं सेंटेंसेस बताता हूं आपको. रन ऑफ द मिल मतलब कुछ नया नहीं है. एंड ऑफ कोर्स क्लीशे इज ऑलवेज रिटन एज दिस. रिमेंबर इन लिंग्विस्टिक्स this represents the a ki matra of Hindi, so this is called a cliche. So all these words are synonyms of the word banal: trite, stale, overused, hackneyed, run of the mill, and cliche. The movie had a very hackneyed plot. This you can usually say about any Salman Khan movie. I mean, he makes a lot of movies with the same story. So that is hackneyed. Run of the mill मतलब इसमें कुछ नया नहीं है. रिमेंबर, स्टेल में मैं बासी बोल रहा हूं, तो स्टेल इज अ स्ट्रॉन्गर वर्ड टर्म टू यूज देन रन ऑफ द मिल, राइट? एंड क्लीशे इज यूज्ड अगेन फॉर अ मोटिवेशनल कोट और समथिंग. हैकनीड, स्टेल, रन ऑफ द मिल ये आप आइडिया के लिए भी यूज कर सकते हैं. यू कैन यूज इट फॉर अ वर्क ऑफ आर्ट, यू कैन यूज इट फॉर अ पीस ऑफ म्यूजिक ऑल्सो. बट क्लीशे यू यूजुअली यूज ओनली फॉर अ कॉन्सेप्ट और ओनली फॉर अ टर्म, समथिंग इन इंग्लिश which has been said again and again. तो थोड़ा सा यूसेजेस अलग है, बट ऑल दीज बिलोंग टू द सेम कैटेगरी. एंड यू वांट एन एंटोनिम. डायरेक्ट एंटोनिम दे आर ऑप्शन डी. वॉट एवर इज बेनल इज डेफिनेटली नॉट ओरिजिनल. So this has to be the answer to question number 7. Vapid is vacuous. Okay, a vapid expression on your face. For example, I suddenly start discussing the meaning of life. All of you will have a very vapid expression on your face. Vacuous, dull, motionless. That is vapid. Bland is जैसा आपके सामने एक बहुत अच्छी सब्जी है रेस्टोरेंट, उसमें नमक ही नहीं है. How will you describe the taste? You'll call it bland. Okay? तो थोड़ा सा इसका सिनोनिम ही है ब्लैंड भी. सो द आंसर हियर हैज टू बी ओरिजिनल. इट्स अ डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन, नो प्रॉब्लम देयर. कैमराडरी. नाउ दिस इज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग वर्ड. वी आर ऑन क्वेश्चन 8. कैमराडरी इज व्हेन देयर इज अ टीम ऑफ पीपल एंड दे आर वेरी यूनाइटेड. Okay, they can rely on each other in times of crisis. There is a very friendly bond between them. Right? They function very well as a unit. That is called camaraderie. There is an easy way to remember. Something the Indian cricket team did not have when they toured New Zealand, especially in the Test series. What is the one thing they did not have? Camaraderie. Nobody was ready to stand for anybody else. Right? That is camaraderie. But camaraderie is used in a very general situation, and camaraderie is more used to indicate unity and teamwork. There is another word, bonhomie. This is pronounced as bonhomie, which means easy good nature. I mean, 20 people staying together or in a team, all of them are joking and they have very good cordial mutual relations. So you'll say bonhomie. This feeling of trusting your teammate in a military conflict. There is another term. It's called decor. Get the pronunciation correct. Esprit de corps. So this is the concept of camaraderie applied to a military unit. It becomes esprit de corps. So for camaraderie, intimacy, sociability and conviviality, that is option A, B and C. They are all synonyms. The only antonym here is antagonism. Antagonism is a mutual feeling of ill will, dislike, animosity. That is called antagonism. Antagonism is a noun. Remember, आपको ये words तो मालूम ही होंगे. Protagonist. Protagonist is the main hero of a story, right? Then you have an antagonist. the main villain of the story, right? Now, to antagonize somebody is to behave in such a way that the other person starts disliking you. To behave in such a way that the other person starts disliking you. That is the meaning of to antagonize somebody. So, antagonist is the villain, protagonist is the hero. So, antagonism should be the answer here to question 8. Question 9. The word, remember, is pronounced as chagrin. It's not chagrin. Chagrin. He discovered, much to his chagrin, that he had lost the toss again. So the meaning of the word chagrin is annoyance. When you are annoyed by something, it has caused you chagrin. Right? So here the opposite word should be a word, antonym should be a word which indicates happiness. And it's straight away glee. Grumpiness is typically when you scold children, they retire to a corner of the room and they say, I will not talk to anybody. We call that sulking. Right? So being grumpy is similar to sulking. And vexation is trouble. If you have watched Pirates of the Caribbean, I am sure you must have watched the second one, Dead Man's Chest. In that, when Tia Dalma is describing the story of this person, Davy Jones, he says, he came across something which vexes all men. Right? So, vexes is troubles all men. Vexation is a lot of trouble. So, again, negative words, the only option that fits is option C, that is glee. Temperate, you know, the tropics, the temperates. So, temperate zones are where the climate is mild, not harsh. These are called the temperate zones. Option A, clement. Clement is mercy. Right? Clement is mercy. Anybody who can tell me the meaning of the word Benedict? Benedict Cumberbatch. Right? Benedict is a person who is blessed. Right? And benediction is blessing. So clement is merciful. Okay? इससे एक वर्ड आता है clemency petition, a petition asking the President of India to have mercy. काफी बार होता है ये, people who have been given the death sentence, for example, they make a clemency petition to the President. To commute their death sentence maybe to life sentence or something. Well, even Kasab did it. So these are called clemency petitions. Okay. Now you must have heard the sentence, the aircraft could not land because of inclement weather conditions. अगर ये वर्ड भी सुना है तो आप इसका मीनिंग गेस कर सकते हैं. What kind of weather conditions, due to what kind of weather conditions would the aircraft not be able to land? Merciless, right? Harsh weather conditions. So if inclement is harsh, what would be clement? मर्सीफुल. तो आपको अगर मीनिंग नहीं पता लेकिन आपने कहीं ये वर्ड सुना है और कंटेक्स्ट याद है तो आप गेस जरूर कर सकते हैं. सो क्लेमेंट is of course then merciful would be a synonym for temperate. The obvious answer would be callous, option B, which is very harsh. Okay. Meek and mild, they are unrelated words. So question 10, the answer is B. Right? Now the next set of questions is something which can create a few problems. Remember, we are trying to learn more vocabulary through different types of questions. That is the basic purpose. Even though you may not get this type of question, but the point is, अगर आपका usage इतना perfect हो गया कि आप ये questions भी answer कर पा रहे हैं, तो it will always be advantageous while interpreting passages. So, let's begin with questions 11 and 12. These are called confusing questions. Read through the 4 sentences. I give you 2 minutes. Please read through the 4 sentences. Mark what you think is the correct answer. Then we'll discuss all the 8 words. You have 2 minutes. Please. Okay, done? Right. So, What are the words that are given to you? In the first question, you have to choose between prosecution and persecution. In the second, harbored and harnessed. In the third, interment and internment. And in the fourth, you have to choose between butchered. I'm sorry, the U has not come out well. Kindly adjust. Butchered and marauded. Okay. Now remember, if this type of question comes to you, always try to use elimination of options. Okay. How? Sentence 1. Among the groups that the Nazi regime and its Axis partners singled out for prosecution/persecution on so-called racial grounds were the Roma Gypsies. Now, if you know the words prosecution, you are appearing for law entrance, you should know the word prosecution. Prosecution is to conduct an entire judicial proceeding against somebody. Charge sheet, summons, witnesses, testimony, cross-examination, prosecution. Here in this sentence, you are talking about treating a specific group of people in a very degrading manner. So the word here should be persecution. That means your correct option has to start with B. Now how many options start with B? Only 2. तो ऑप्शन बी और डी तो आपका एलिमिनेट हो गया है. ऑप्शन ए और सी बचा है. दीज आर द ओनली 2 ऑप्शंस व्हिच आर स्टार्टिंग विद बी. अब ऑप्शन ए एंड सी, इफ यू ऑब्जर्व देम क्लोजली, एवरीथिंग एल्स इज डिफरेंट. मतलब ये 3 में आपको कोई भी एक आ जाए तो आपका सही आंसर आ जाएगा. Correct? So you don't need to know everything. You need to be smart. You need to be very smart to figure out this, right? Of course, practice के साथ आ जाएगा options eliminate कैसे करना है. So let's go through the second sentence. Drawing support from many non-Nazi Germans who harbored/harnessed social prejudice towards Roma, the Nazis judged Roma to be racially inferior. So you are talking about Nazi Germans who had some ill feeling, some social prejudice towards Roma. When do you use harness? बहुत सारी uses हैं. Horse as a harness. He died in harness would mean he died while doing his duty or while doing his job. In spite having a coastline of roughly 7,500 kilometers, India has not been able to harness the full potential of tidal energy. So harness is to use something towards a positive purpose. That is the meaning of harness. Harbor is to keep something. Ships are safe in the harbor, right? To harbor something is to keep something within you. So here you are talking about social prejudice against Roma. The correct word has to be harbored because the Nazi Germans kept this social prejudice. That means your correct answer has to be B and A. There's only one option. You mark it and you move on in life. It's that simple. Clear? Right. And thirdly, but what is the difference? Remember, interment indicates burial. Okay, and internment indicates imprisonment. You must have read Julius Caesar, right? Mark Antony's speech. The evil that men do lives after them, whereas the good is often interred with their bodies, buried with their bodies. Sentence 3 is talking about arbitrary burial नहीं हो सकता ना, arbitrary imprisonment होगा. So it has to be internment, that is B. And the last one, butchered, obviously, because you are talking about killing ruthlessly, BA, and this has to be your answer. Now let's go to question number 12. Let's look at the words here carefully. Well, Arctic sea ice has shown a relatively steady descent and decline. What is the difference between these two words? Let's try to understand. Descent is more used with a physical climb down, right? And decline is used with a reduction in value, right? So here you are talking about sea ice has shown a relatively steady descent. Sea ice is not purposefully climbing down. Okay, the quantity has gone down, so it has to be decline. And the moment you say the first should be B, you immediately get to two options, that is option C and D. Option A and B are eliminated. Now let's look at the second one. This is थोड़ा controversial. आपके पास choices हैं erroneous and erratic. Erroneous is गलत, erratic is unreliable, inconsistent, right? Erroneous मतलब डेटा ही गलत है, erratic डेटा का मतलब वो डेटा के भरोसे कोई significant, कोई यूनिफॉर्म पैटर्न नहीं दिख रहा है. So let us see the sentence here now. Its southern counterpart has yielded more erroneous / erratic and controversial data. So data is controversial, ये तो fixed है. What would make a data controversial? Remember, not erroneous. That would make the data wrong, not controversial. What would make the data controversial is based on the data you are not able to give any uniform prediction. So your answer in this case has to be erratic. And the moment you say B and B, you automatically come down to option C as the correct answer. Now in the fourth sentence, there is an interesting word, prognosticating. The main word is prognosticate, which is a verb. Remember, prognosticate is to make a prediction. Remember, you never say make a prediction about the future. You never predict the past, do you? So prognosticate is to make a prediction. This is the verb form. The noun form of the word is either prognostication or prognosis. Now this is also one thing. What is the difference between a diagnosis and a prognosis? Diagnosis is symptoms क्या क्या है और क्या बीमारी है. That is the diagnosis. Prognosis is बीमारी कम करने के लिए क्या करना चाहिए. So prognosis in a medical context you say prognosis. The prognosis of the patient is not very good, which means आगे जो होने वाला है, जो प्रेडिक्शन है कि पेशेंट की तबीयत के साथ क्या होने वाला है, ये प्रेडिक्शन बहुत अच्छा नहीं है, राइट? दैट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ प्रोग्नोस्टिकेट. नाउ यू आर सेइंग प्रोग्नोस्टिकेटिंग एंड थियोराइजिंग. Why is it theorizing and why not prognosticating? This says, sentence 4 of question 12, in 2012, Antarctic sea ice actually hit a record monthly high, with scientists theorizing or prognosticating that melting ice shelves will contribute to the growth. Something has already happened, and the scientists are trying to figure out a reason as to why this happened. Right? There is no implication of a future event. Therefore, in this case, the correct answer has to be theorizing and not prognosticating. Are we clear? So this is the initial set that we had to talk about in the material. These are related to vocabulary. Another set related to vocabulary, 13, 14 and 15. I give you a minute, go through the questions and get me the answers to these questions, please. 13, 14 and 15. Okay, let's see. The word feminism evokes a dash response compared to the word dowry, which is almost dashed by the society. So here the two blanks are given. First is our reaction towards feminism, the response we give to feminism, and the response we give to dowry. And the theme of the sentence suggests that the responses these two things get, they are divergent. So you are looking at two words which would convey the opposite feeling. Once you read that sentence, fill in the blank sentence, this much idea you should get about the sentence. This depends on whether you are well read or not. So here he's saying, and you are saying compared to the word dowry, right? तो divergent ही होना चाहिए. Now if you look, evokes a vapid response in India compared to the word dowry, which is almost acknowledged. You are again giving me the same meaning. Vapid is motionless or dull. Almost acknowledged मतलब not completely acknowledged, no? So that immediate divergence that should be there, that stark divergence, it does not exist. Let's look at option B. The word feminism evokes a fanatic response in India compared to the word dowry, which is almost ignored by the society. This is giving me exact divergence. One gets a fanatic response that people get crazy over it, and the second is which is almost ignored. That means there is almost no response, or so fervent response and almost no response. This is what I wanted. My answer has to be option B. Question 14. Dash bans and clearance delays have brought the natural resource sector in India to a/and dash position today. अब if you look at the options carefully, this is a term which is very commonly used. A blanket ban is to ban everything. Why blanket? Because you are taking a blanket and putting it on everything. So if you are sufficiently read, blanket bans is blank. This is the word which is used before bans. इतना अगर आपको थोड़ा अनुभव है तो धड़ से सीधा ऑप्शन 4 पे आ जाएगा. लेकिन बाकी ऑप्शंस देखते हैं. Remember, have brought the natural resource sector to a dash position today. फील क्या है सेंटेंस का कि नेचुरल रिसोर्स सेक्टर बहुत अच्छे पोजीशन में नहीं है, प्रॉफिट नहीं कमा रहे हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अब दूसरा ब्लैंक अगर देखेंगे, सस्टेनेबल तो हो ही नहीं सकता. सस्टेनेबल पोजीशन है तो अच्छी बात है, यू आर अर्निंग प्रॉफिट्स, राइट. दूसरा देखिए अनसस्टेनेबल, ये हो सकता है, लेकिन अनसस्टेनेबल के साथ व्हाट यू हैव बीन गिवन इज जस्टिफाइड bans. Unless you are intending to have a heavy dose of sarcasm in this sentence, you can't say justified bans and a sustainable position, okay, and an unsustainable position. तो option 2 गया. Catastrophic bans is too dramatic. Plus in the second blank, option C is saying enviable position. What do you mean by an enviable position? You are in such a good position that everybody is envying you. Everybody is jealous of you. That is enviable position. That's not the position that natural resource sector is in, and that's not what the sentence is saying. So even by elimination, even if you have not heard the term blanket bans, you use a certain amount of common sense and logic, you'll come down to option 4 as the answer. Question 15. Part of the dash of show business is escaping the dash of real life. Hamill says. A small trivia for you. Which Hamill are you talking about, by the way? Any ideas? The gentleman, I think, is Mark Hamill, the person who plays Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars series. So here you have part of the dash of show business is escaping the dash of real life. Okay, now if you remember a few minutes ago, we had talked about a word humdrum. Right? Routine, monotonous, and we had talked about Salman Khan's films giving a break from the humdrum of existence. It's a similar sentence, right? So real life is how? How is real life? Dull, boring, routine, etc., etc. So the word drudgery fits perfectly with the second blank. The drudgery of real life, and the first word is fun. Part of the fun of show business is escaping the drudgery of real life. See, option A says part of the routine of show business is escaping the ordinary of real life. First of all, ordinary of real life doesn't sound grammatically correct, तो वो option वैसे ही eliminate हो गया. Secondly, part of the routine of show business is escaping the ordinary. So if it is routine show business, how can you call it an escape? Not possible. तो illogic logic भी fit नहीं हो रहा है. Option 2, part of the attraction of show business. Yes, this can do. Is escaping the turtle slow of real life. Turtle slow is an adjective. Turtle slow real life is okay. But the moment you say turtle slow of real life, your grammar has been thrown out. Cannot be the correct answer. Option 3 says part of the boredom of show business. ये तो हटा ही दो, क्योंकि लाइफ बाद में है वो ऑलरेडी बोरिंग है. फिल्म भी बोरिंग रही तो क्या फायदा. तो ऑप्शन सी कैन नॉट बी द आंसर. तो देखिए, फिल इन द ब्लैंक सॉल्व करने के दो तरीके हैं, राइट. आइदर यू नो द परफेक्ट यूसेज ऑफ वर्ड्स और you use your common sense, logic, eliminate whatever is illogical, and you'll be left with only one option. These are the two ways you can solve fill in the blanks questions. After this, let's move on to idioms and phrasal verbs. Now, before we get into the questions, we won't be solving all the questions, obviously. We'll be taking a few questions, keeping the few questions, क्योंकि आप लोग को घर पे भी तो कुछ करना पड़ेगा ना, नहीं तो आप लोगों की प्रैक्टिस कैसे होगी. करेक्ट. बाय द वे, जस्ट स्मॉल डाइग्रेशन. यू नो व्हाट दिस मीन्स? वर्क विच यू हैव टू डू एट होम. This does not mean work that has been given to you and you ignore it completely. Let's get that straight. So whatever questions we are not solving in the classroom in this video, remember वो आपको घर पे solve करना है. And in case you have doubts, you can always contact us at the center. That's not at all a problem. I hope this is clear, right? So what is the main difference between idioms and phrasal verbs? सबसे पहले तो एक बहुत बड़ी बहस है कि ये प्रोवर्ब्स क्या होते हैं और इडियम्स क्या होते हैं और फ्रेजल वर्ब्स क्या होते हैं. सो लेट्स ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस फर्स्ट. Proverbs and idioms roughly convey the same thing. I mean, the word meaning of the word, but there is a small difference. Small difference as in a proverb is a grammatically complete sentence. For example, suppose I say, a stitch in time saves 9. A stitch in time saves 9. This is a classic example of a proverb because it's a grammatically complete sentence. And what is the proverb trying to say? Never delay. ठीक है, आपकी ट्राउजर थोड़ी सी फटी है तो अभी सी लेना, नहीं तो बाद में उसी को 9 सिलाइयां लगेंगी. That's what it is saying, right? So this is a proverb which conveys what meaning? You better do things on time. If you delay them, it will take more effort. Just like preparing for CLAT and solving your homework on a daily basis. You better do it on a daily basis. Otherwise, it becomes unmanageable. So that is a stitch in time saves 9. It's a grammatically complete sentence. But suppose I say, when he finally decided to pay the admission fees at a college, maybe he crossed the Rubicon. Now, when I simply say cross the Rubicon, it's not making any grammatical sense, is it? Okay, but this is called an idiom. An idiom is not a grammatically complete sentence. It's always a part of the sentence which conveys some specific meaning. And an idiom can come from anywhere. This, for example, has come from the story of Julius Caesar. When he had to invade Italy, he had to cross a river called the Rubicon. And once he crossed that river, his decision became irreversible. So when you cross the Rubicon, what you have done is you have taken the final step. You have made the final commitment. Now it is irreversible. That is cross the Rubicon. ऐसे कई सारे idioms हैं और कई सारे proverbs हैं जो यूज में हैं. ओके, ऑफ कोर्स अगर आप चेतन भगत पढ़ेंगे तो मुश्किल है ये सब मिलना. Phrasal verbs is usually a combination of 2 or 3 words, one of which is always a verb. Okay, and the second and the third word, they are usually prepositions or adverbs. Right? जैसा if I take one simple verb, से पुट। अब इससे मैं इसके बाद प्रपोजिशन क्या यूज करता हूं, प्रीपोजिशन क्या यूज करता हूं, इससे मैं बहुत अलग अलग दिशा में जा सकता हूं। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, टू पुट डाउन समबडी is to insult somebody or to denigrate somebody. To put up with somebody, किसी को सहना. For example, when you try to put up with the sick sense of humor of your best friend, तो you are bearing it, आप सह रहे हो. That is put up. Okay. Put on. Suppose your friend who is very conventional and orthodox wears a very flashy dress. It appears put on, right? So what do you mean by put on here? Put on is something which is artificial. तो verb एक ही है, पर मैं preposition क्या यूज कर रहा हूं, इससे वो मीनिंग बहुत ऊपर नीचे होगा. These are phrasal verbs. Again, let's take another example. To look on is to just observe and do nothing. To look up is to actually, two meanings. I looked up the word in the dictionary. That means you actually search for the word. I look up to him. That means you idolize somebody. Okay. Never look down on people. That means to treat them or to say that they are inferior or to treat them in an inferior way, to consider yourself superior to them. Never look down on people. You never know when you might need them. So again, just one verb, right? But which preposition I am using, that makes the entire difference. These are called phrasal verbs. Okay? तो इसके कोई ऐसे लिस्ट ऑफ रूल्स नहीं है जो आप रट्टा मार सकते हैं. ये पूरी एक्सपीरियंस की बात है. आप धीरे धीरे वी विल डिस्कस सम फ्रेजल वर्ब्स, तो यू विल गेट यूज्ड टू द कॉन्सेप्ट. इसको यूज करने का एक पर्टिकुलर तरीका होता है और पर्टिकुलर इडियम्स हैं जिनके पर्टिकुलर मीनिंग रहेंगे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, कभी कभी वो सिचुएशन क्या है वहां से आप मीनिंग गेस कर सकते हो, इवन इफ यू हैवंट रेड इट बिफोर. आप सब यही सोचते हैं कि बाप रे इतने सारे इडियम्स होंगे, हम कहां से पढ़ेंगे. जरूरत नहीं है, राइट? हम कुछ क्वेश्चंस तो कर ही रहे हैं, उसके साथ जहां पे भी पॉसिबल हम एक्स्ट्रा इडियम्स बताएंगे. बहुत बार वो इडियम सुन के आप गेस कर फिगर आउट कर सकते हो. रिमेंबर कॉमन सेंस एंड लॉजिक, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टूल्स. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, सपोज आई गिव यू एन इडियम, लॉकिंग द स्टेबल्स आफ्टर द हॉर्सेस हैव बोल्टेड. कुछ स्पेशल चाहिए ही नहीं, आपको मीनिंग समझ ही गया है. और कुछ कुछ इडियम्स जो है इनका तो एग्जैक्ट हिंदी ट्रांसलेशन है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अब रोके क्या करोगे जब चिड़िया चुग गई खेत. लॉकिंग द स्टेबल्स आफ्टर द हॉर्सेस हैव बोल्टेड. परफेक्ट फिट. इसको हम कभी कभी बोलते हैं टू लिटिल टू लेट. मतलब समस्या खत्म हो चुकी है, समस्या आउट ऑफ कंट्रोल जा चुकी है, अब पछता के क्या करोगे. दैट्स द आइडिया. लॉकिंग द स्टेबल्स आफ्टर द हॉर्सेस हैव बोल्टेड. द मेजर्स विच यूरोप टुडे इज टेकिंग टू प्रिवेंट स्प्रेड ऑफ कोविड-19 इज जस्ट अ केस ऑफ लॉकिंग द स्टेबल्स आफ्टर द हॉर्सेस हैव बोल्टेड. मतलब वो डिस्प्रोपोर्शनेटली फैल चुका है, अब आप जागे हो नींद से, राइट? So that's how. So 16 to 20. In fact, question numbers 16 to 25 are based on idioms. Let's run through them fast. 16 to 20 में which of the following is incorrect? The answer has to be blue tape, because sentence C is indicating a bureaucratic delay. Okay? Bureaucratic delay के लिए the idiom you use is red tape. इसका ओरिजिन क्या है? अगर आप 90s में कोई सरकारी ऑफिस में जाते, आजकल तो सब ऑनलाइन है, तो एक पैड रहता था जिसके ऊपर बहुत सारे फाइल्स रखे होते थे, ठीक है? और वो पैड को एक रेड रिबन रहता था, वो रिबन लगा के उस पर गठान बांध के रखते थे. तो दैट इंडिकेट्स दैट द फाइल इज स्टक अप इन ब्यूरोक्रेटिक डिलेस. इसीलिए रेड टेप आता है, ब्लू टेप ऐसा कोई इडियम है ही नहीं. All the other idioms are correct. Question 17. The regional manager has opened a whole new can of worms. This is absolutely correct. Imagine you have a can and you open the can, उसमें पूरे worms बाहर निकल रहे. How will you feel? Right? To open a can of worms is to initiate something which creates a lot of trouble later on. That is to open a can of worms. This is absolutely correct. Can you please share the exact location of where we should go? We are sick of being on a wild goose chase. A wild goose chase is the perfect idiom to explain a fruitless pursuit. You are on a wild goose chase. That means you are on a false trail. You won't get the goose. Right? You won't achieve your objective. That's a wild goose chase. A little bird told me about their love affair. Yes, this is absolutely correct. ये तो सुना भी होगा. During the exam, the invigilator watched like an eagle. हाँ, ये गलत है. Because whenever you talk about being watched with a very keen eye, being watched with a very keen eye, it should be watched like a hawk, not watched like an eagle. So this is the answer. Question 18, she's got a chip on her shoulder. Chip on her shoulder would be very arrogant because she is a proletariat. So this is correct. Lucy's comment gave Lucida reason to celebrate as the moment was close to home for the later. This is wrong. When do you use the idiom something is close to home? When it is very close to being true and it hurts. Got the idea? When it is very close to being true and it hurts, that is when you say close to home. तो यहां पे सेंटेंस में गड़बड़ हो गई ना. आपको स्टार्टिंग में बोला है लुसिंडा अ रीजन टू सेलिब्रेट. तो इफ यू हैव बीन हर्ट वुड यू सेलिब्रेट? नो. सो दैट्स द रॉन्ग इडियम. bear the brunt, corking up his feelings. जैसा when cork is that which you put on a bottle to ensure that whatever is inside the bottle doesn't come out, right? So if you do that with your feelings, you are bottling your feelings, which means you are corking up your feelings. You are not letting them come out. So D is also absolutely correct. 19th, it's very obvious the answer has to be C, because if something is very costly, you say it costs an arm and a leg. This is the idiom that is used to say that something is very costly. It costs an arm and a leg. Very soon we'll be saying it costs a kidney like an iPhone, but let's not wait for that time. My brother let the cat out of the bag. Let the cat out of the bag. मतलब पहले ही secret बता दिया. So that's correct. So question 19, the answer has to be option C. And question 20, Huck had such a pale face when he learned that his mother was going to the US with his younger brother. Now suppose he is very attached to his mother and his mother is going to the US with his younger brother. He will be sad, right? And pale face expresses shock, not sadness. So there is an idiom pale face, but it is used to express shock or dismay, not sadness. For sadness, the idiom to use is long face. You must have heard that horse walking into a bar joke. No? A horse walked into a bar and the bartender said, why the long face? That's the joke. Okay? तो थोड़ा सा ह्यूमर, सेंस ऑफ ह्यूमर बढ़ाओ. बहुत जरूरी है ये सब अंग्रेजी सीखने के लिए. अगर आपको लग रहा है यू लर्न इंग्लिश बाय सॉल्विंग क्वेश्चंस, यू आर मिस्टेकन. यू डोंट लर्न इंग्लिश लाइक दैट. यू लर्न मैथ्स लाइक दैट. यू लर्न LR and DI लाइक दैट. नो. इंग्लिश यू लर्न बाय रीडिंग अ लॉट, by letting a lot of correct English fall on your ears, by letting correct English pass from under your eye. That's how you learn English. It's not maths. Dull, boring. Nahin? Yeah, I understand. 21 to 25, these are match the following type of idioms. So we'll quickly go through them. Dead ringer is a replica, something which looks exactly like you. आजकल उसके लिए एक और वर्ड आया है, doppelganger. Doppelganger is a person who looks exactly like you. ओके, तो डेड रिंगर शुड बी रेप्लिका, इसमें कोई एक्सप्लेनेशन नहीं है, ध्यान रखिएगा, इट इज व्हाट इट इज. ड्राई रन मतलब टेस्टिंग होना चाहिए. लेट्स डू अ ड्राई रन बिफोर वी फाइनली लॉन्च द प्रोडक्ट. दैट मीन्स लेट्स टेस्ट वेदर द प्रोडक्ट इज वर्किंग और नॉट. फनी फार्म, दैट्स अ बिट रूड. Funny farm is a place where you have all the people who are not mentally capable. The answer has to be asylum, but it's very rude. I agree. High on the hog. He is high on the hog. That means he is living a bloody very luxurious life. ऐश चल रही है life में, मतलब dining at the expensive places, wearing very good clothes, living in a palatial house. He is high on the hog, which means he is very rich. Hence, high on the hog should be affluent. Right? Affluent is wealth flowing. Plum job, he landed a plum job in an IT company. That is either a very easy job or a job which pays you a lot of money. That's a plum job. तो इसका आंसर आना चाहिए dead ringer is replica A2. तो you are immediately up to options B and C. Dry run is testing, B is 3. You are immediately on to option B. Remember, this is how you need to solve. अब क्लास में है तो मैं आपको सारे idioms के मीनिंग बता रहा हूं, लेकिन एग्जाम में आपको सारे idioms के मीनिंग नहीं भी पता तो भी सॉल्व हो जाता है, जैसे हमने अभी सॉल्व करा. ये क्वेश्चन में सिर्फ पहले दो पता अगर है आपको तो आपका आंसर आ जाएगा, बाकी 3 पता रहने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. To chase your tail, that's very interesting. Remember, we are on question 22. Have you ever seen a dog trying to catch its tail? It keeps moving round and round in circles. And does it ever manage to catch the tail? No, right? अब देखिए right hand side में, chase your tail. To rush around ineffectually. That's literal. Remember, you never tried with a monkey. You have to get the animal right. क्योंकि monkey's tail is very long, dog's tail is very short. To chase your tail, that means should be to rush around ineffectually. Dead wood. Let's wait. अगर नहीं पता है तो deadwood is tough. I am talking from your perspective. Remember, the acid test मतलब the concluding step. The acid test of whether your vocabulary is good or not is whether you can use it in a sentence. The final step. तो मैंने जब acid test बोला तो C का 5 हो गया, तो अभी तक मेरा A का 3 और C का 5 आया है. मैं ऑप्शन देख रहा हूं, मेरे को उतने भी करने की जरूरत नहीं है. A का 3 जब आ गया तो सीधा ऑप्शन D आ गया मेरा आंसर. This is how you solve questions. Remember, we are focusing on that also. This is how you solve questions. You don't need to know everything. मैं बार बार बोल रहा हूं, नहीं तो आपको लगेगा बाप रे इतने सारी idioms कहां से पढ़ेंगे. जरूरत ही नहीं है, थोड़े बहुत मालूम है तो खटाखट ऑप्शन से एलिमिनेट हो जाएंगे. Pain in the neck. Oh my God. A pain in the neck usually is an obnoxious person or situation. Right? Like, I mean, everything was going fine, man. This COVID-19 virus has now become a pain in the neck. An obnoxious situation. तो फट से आपका A का 5 आया. ऑप्शन देखो, ऑप्शन B या C है. Call on the carpet. नहीं पता हमको, छोड़ दो. Carrot and stick. Improve performance. Carrot and stick approach is a very famous theory of motivation. Improve performance by contradictory moves. तो C का 4 आ गया, तो मेरे पास A का 5 और C का 4 है. B मेरे को सपोज मालूम नहीं था, तो धड़ से मेरा आंसर आ गया ऑप्शन C. कौन सी बड़ी बात हो गई. आउट ऑफ द ब्लू मतलब सडनली या रेयरली. वंस इन अ ब्लू मून बोलते ना, आउट ऑफ द ब्लू. तो आउट ऑफ द ब्लू का यहां पे आएगा रेयरली. ब्लू इन द फेस. When you face shortness of breath or when you are exhausted, you go blue in the face. तो मेरा तो सिर्फ A आया, तो मेरा आंसर आ गया इसमें. फिफ्थ व्हील, कोई भी गाड़ी 4 चक्के पे चलती है, 5वां चक्का टोटली अननेसेसरी है. मानते हो बात? तो हो गया. A का 1 है, मेरे पास एक ही ऑप्शन है, ऑप्शन D आंसर आ गया. फिनिश. दैट इज हाउ इजी इट इज. Again, I am saying you don't need to know everything, just the right things and common sense to use the options clearly. So that completes a substantial part of the lecture. Question numbers 26 to 35. Remember, ये आपको घर पे करने हैं, and we have already discussed what is the meaning of a homework. So now 2 parts of this are remaining. First is foreign words. You must have heard the saying, the sun never set on the British Empire. Yes? Can you give me the reason for that? Even gods could not trust them in the dark? No? Then? So the geographical expanse of the British Empire was so huge that it never happened that in the entire empire it was sunset at the same time. That is why it is said the sun never set on the British Empire. English essentially cannot be said to be an original language, because if you have gone through etymology, you know there are a lot of French terms, a lot of Latin terms, Spanish terms, etc. So in the next section, we are going to discuss some of these words. We of course are not going to solve everything. We are on question numbers 36 to 50. Now mainly you have French, Italian, Spanish, Latin, and to a very small percentage German influence on English words. The most important for you, considering the specific exam that you are appearing for, is going to be Latin, because this is the language in which most of the legal terms are there. आप अगर constitution भी पढ़ेंगे तो उसमें जो आपके for example constitutional remedies है, Latin terms ही हैं. All these languages have influenced English heavily. Still, there are some terms which English has adopted directly from these languages and not made any modifications. Let's start with a simple example, which is question number 36. This is pronounced as joie de vivre. This is the basic French word for life, and this is joy. So joie de vivre is the joy of living, taking a lot of, let's say, happiness from the mere fact that you are alive as a human on this planet. That is joie de vivre. With vivre, you have another word, modus vivendi, which means the way you live, the way of life that you follow, that would be your modus vivendi. यहाँ से आप digress हो सकते हैं. You have another term, modus operandi, which means your style of work, also called as MO, mode of operation, your style of working, that is modus operandi. यहाँ से अब फिर एक और word आ सकता है, bon vivant. This comes from the French for good, which is bene. So bon vivant is a person who leads or lives a good life. Again, like we had talked about earlier, maybe an Epicurean is a synonym for bon vivant. So all these words come from vivre. ऐसे कई सारे words हैं इंग्लिश में जो यूज होते हैं, और फ्रेंच वर्ड्स याद रखना, प्रोनाउंस करना बहुत मुश्किल है. सो दिस इज क्वेश्चन 36 to 50 पूरा एक बार आप रन थ्रू कर लेंगे. अ सॉइल इज अ क्लास पार्टी. क्लास पार्टी, वी आर ऑन क्वेश्चन 37. क्लास पार्टी नॉट एज इन पीपल ऑफ द सेम सेक्शन. देयर इज अ वर्ड, term rather, crème de la crème, which means the cream of the cream. Whenever you talk about society, whatever be the country, this is the essential societal structure. You have the bottom classes, you have the middle classes, and then you have the crème de la crème. That's how you use it in a sentence. The terms for these sections would be hoi polloi, and for this the term that is frequently used is bourgeois. So when you say a class party, it means a party of the crème de la crème, an august gathering. Savoir faire is basically being worldly wise, having a very perfect idea about what to say, where to say, and how to say it. So here again, इसमें remember etymology पढ़ के कोई फायदा है नहीं. As far as these words are concerned, specific words हैं, specific meanings हैं. That's why I'm just running through the answer. Mon Dieu is very simple. Mon is my, Dieu is goodness. So mon Dieu is my goodness. Ultra wires, question 41. This is a very legal term. Ultra wires would be beyond the powers that have been given. For example, in India, maybe only the Supreme Court can interpret the law. So ultra wires is beyond one's legal power, and the answer therefore should be option B. We'll skip the legal terms. Some other faculty will definitely take care of it. Faith accompli. Let's go to question 45. A faith accompli. This means an established fact, right? Something which is sure to happen. If you do your homework properly, that you will score well in CLAT is a faith accompli. An established fact, already proven, already happened. So if you work hard, you can assume that this is bound to happen. You'll call that a faith accompli. So 45 should be an established fact. 46 is faux pas. Remember, this is not pronounced as a fox pass. It's a faux pas. Faux का मतलब है false. Pa का मतलब है move. So faux pas literally would mean a false move or a misstep. Now let's look at the options. Facts of the case, option A, no. A pause in a conversation, no. A political fiasco, no. A social blunder, that's the only one left. So faux pas essentially is a social blunder. A new term coming up starting with faux is a term called faux feminism, which basically this means a false move. This means false feminism. 2-3 मैगजीन्स में मैंने पढ़ा है, सोचा आपके साथ शेयर कर दूं. There is no other intention here. So that's a faux pas. 48, au courant, to flow with the current. This is pronounced as au courant, with the current. इसके लिए एक idiom भी यूज होता है, to be in the swim. In the swim. To be in the swim का मतलब to be well informed. So when you are au courant, it means you are well versed with whatever is happening in the world around you. So here the answer has to be well informed. Option C, 48, option C is a fashionable society. There is a specific term for that. It's called beau monde. A fashionable society. France maybe. So that's it as far as foreign words are concerned. The last thing on our agenda are figures of speech. Now you all must have heard of parts of speech, and there are 8 parts of speech: verb, noun, pronoun, adjective, interjection, etc., etc. Parts of speech are compulsory elements of English language. You can very well write English without using figures of speech. The problem is nobody is going to read it, because figures of speech are stylistic elements that are used. Now please remember, you won't find figures of speech if you read the current novels. But if you go back by 100 years, let us say, when we used to live in a textual world and not a visual world. आज तो आपके पास इंस्टा है, तो आप बुर्ज खलीफा के सामने खड़े हो, फोटो डाल दो, ऑसम करके डाल दो, हो गया काम खत्म, इम्पैक्ट आ गया, राइट. बट इमेजिन अ पर्सन इज स्टैंडिंग इन फ्रंट ऑफ बुर्ज खलीफा एंड इज लुकिंग एट द बिल्डिंग. Right, when he looks at the building, there would be a certain impact on his mind regarding how high the building is or how tall the building is, right? Now suppose he wants to describe this to his friend in such a way that it produces the same impact on the friend's mind. What will he say? Suppose he says it's a very tall building, doesn't work. He'll say the building was almost touching the sky. Now, though it's not perfect, it gives a greater impact than just saying that it's a very tall building. These are figures of speech. I have just used the figure of speech called hyperbole. So figures of speech are essentially stylistic elements. They are used to exaggerate, they are used to dramatize, they are used to pump up the entire feeling and produce an impact on the mind of the reader, an impact which is the same as that would be produced if he looks at it. That's the idea of figures of speech, right? Now, बचपन में आपने कुछ basic figures of speech जरूर पढ़े होंगे, and these are the first four which are taught: simile, metaphor, personification, and alliteration. Simile is when you compare two things. Metaphor is when the two things are fused into one. Fight like a lion. Simile, be a lion. Metaphor. Because when you say be a lion in the fight, the two entities are being fused to create a common entity. But when you say fight like a lion, there are two distinct entities which are being compared. That's the difference between a simile and a metaphor. Personification is a very simple figure of speech. When you take something inanimate and give it a physical form. For example, Mr. Pneumonia was walking on the street, knocking at every door and touching everybody with his icy fingers. Suppose I say this is from the Last Leaf by H.H. Munro. So when I am saying Mr. Pneumonia was walking through the street, knocking on every door and touching everyone with his icy fingers, मैंने ये बोल दिया. अगर मैंने ये बोला होता कि the colony, many people in the colony were struck by pneumonia, it does not have the same impact. So I make pneumonia a person and I say Mr. Pneumonia. Impact is much more. I have personified an illness. That is called personification. And alliteration is very simple. When you have more than one word in a sentence which begins with the same sound. That favorite tongue twister of people, Betty bought some butter but the butter was bitter, that's typically alliteration. These are the four basic figures of speech. Right? Then there are some figures of speech which essentially deal in opposites. We'll start with something called as an oxymoron. Oxymoron is when two words with opposite meanings are placed side by side. It's called an oxymoron. For example, we routinely use the term same difference. Planned spontaneity, regularly irregular. That is, these are oxymorons. Then you have irony. Irony is not in the language, irony is always in a situation. When ideally what should happen and what is actually happening, when these two are complete opposites, you will say that it's an irony. I'm just rushing through them. आपके booklet में, I think on, please refer to page number 6 of your booklet. 20 figures of speech आपको दिए हैं along with an explanation and a sentence. You'll have to go through them. These maybe are included there or are additional. I don't know. We'll talk about as many as I can remember. There are more than 40. So you have irony. Then you have sarcasm. Remember, sarcasm is opposite vocabulary. Suppose you come late to the class and I say, बहुत जल्दी आ गए आज. The literal meaning of what I am saying and what I actually want to say are completely opposite. This is called sarcasm. Please remember, if there is this general tendency to label anything as sarcasm, that's not true. There are specific criteria which you have to meet in order to be sarcastic. Some people are brilliant at it. So that is sarcasm. Suppose you don't work very hard, I don't consider you as a very good student, and you come to me and say, Sir, English में मेरे सिर्फ 20 सही हुए. And if I say, बाप रे, बहुत ज़्यादा हो गए, that is being sarcastic. Okay, what I want to say is और ज़्यादा होने चाहिए, बहुत कम हुए. You should get 28 corrects in English, but what am I actually saying? बहुत ज़्यादा हो गए. That is sarcasm. So you have oxymoron, irony, sarcasm, paradox. Paradox is a logical impossibility. Then you have antithesis, two opposite ideas put together in the same sentence, like Preparing for war is a guarantee of peace. Preparing for war is a guarantee of peace. That would be an antithesis because you have put two opposite ideas in the same sentence. Preparing for war and guaranteeing peace. राइट तो ऐसे कई सारे हैं. फिर कुछ स्पेसिफिक हैं, जैसे यू हैव अ फिगर ऑफ स्पीच कॉल्ड पन. Pun is when you use a word strategically which is capable of any meaning. Sometimes pun is, I wanted to say to somebody, without you I am whole. But instead of typing this, I said it. Okay. So I meant complete. She understood. Sorry, the other person, not she. The other person understood as. तो ये बोलने में पन आ गया, right? These are called homophones. They sound same to the ear. And this misunderstanding continued for a very long time, by the way. Sometimes pun is in writing. Marriage is not a word, it's a sentence. The death sentence. You see what I mean? So, pun can either be, but then remember you need to be extra intelligent or very cunning and wicked to understand a pun and to use a pun while speaking. And today normally the habit is after using a pun, people write pun intended, which kind of takes away the charm of it, takes away the entire fun, but then that's okay because understanding that is much more important, right? तो ऐसे कई सारे figures of speech हैं. Let's try to solve some questions based on this. Can you please go through question 51 to 56, 51 to 50, 51 to 60 देख लीजिए एक बार. I'll give you 2 minutes. Go through the questions. Right, the shadow of the moon now danced on the lake. Oh my God, very romantic. The shadow of the moon danced on the lake. Does it have legs? No. Hands? No. Feet? No. Sense of rhythm? No. How can you dance? This is personification because the shadow of the moon has been depicted as a person. That's personification. 52. Her eye met hers as she sat there paler and whiter than anyone in the vast ocean of anxious faces about her. Very difficult to figure this out. Now when I say anxious faces, right, I have used part for the whole, W-H-O-L-E, okay, and the word faces actually represents persons or people, okay. So when for a whole you use a part, that figure of speech is called as a synecdoche. synecdoche. It is called a synecdoche. So question 52, the answer has to be a metonym. Write down the meaning of metonym. A word used as a substitute for something else. A word used as a substitute for something else. For example, if I say New Delhi has passed an act, I have said New Delhi. What I want to say is the Indian government. Right? So this is known as a metonym, a word used as a substitute for something else. Let's go to question 53. I knew we had left the city when I could hear the gentle moo of cows in the field. Moo is a word which is indicating a sound. The boom of a cannon, a crackling Diwali, etc., etc. So whenever you use a word that represents a sound, that figure of speech is called as an onomatopoeia. So your answer here has to be option C. We have already discussed option A, metaphor, you know what that is. Option B, alliteration, you know what that is as well. Option D, personification. We have discussed all these. The moment he entered, question 54, the moment he entered, the room filled with a deafening silence. Beautiful use. Deafening, something which is so loud that your ears shatter. Silence, completely quiet. So you have used two words with opposite meanings and you have juxtaposed them. So this figure of speech has to be what we had discussed, an oxymoron. So this should be option D. 54 ka option B says anaphora. Anaphora is when a sentence has different clauses and each clause begins the same way. It adds emphasis. For example, the war ravages, war annihilates, war vanquishes, war kills everything. There are many clauses, they are separated by a comma, but every clause has started with the same word war. This is called an anaphora. I came, I saw, I conquered. This is anaphora. There is a complete ulta of this. It is called an epiphora. Epiphora is when the last part of the clause is repeated. Anaphora is when the first part of a clause is repeated. This is also called as an epistrophe, by the way. So I hope you have understood the difference between an anaphora and an epiphora, right? Question number 55. The shirt does not suit him at all since he is vertically challenged. Remember, we know about people who are, we don't even say mentally challenged anymore, we say differently abled. So vertically challenged, you are trying to be polite, you are trying to say that he is very short, right? So using mild words to express something harsh, that is called a euphemism. Using mild words to express something which is very harsh. So for question 55, the answer has to be A. It was the age of wisdom. Question 56. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch. It was. This is a classic example again where a sentence is split into many clauses. Every clause is beginning with the same term. So this has to be an anaphora. That is option B. I have already explained epistrophe to you. Option A. 57. The girl was dying to try on the new dress. This is an exaggeration, so it has to be an hyperbole. Option A, 57, we have discussed. Option B, idiom, we have discussed. Option C, epiphany. Epiphany is a sudden moment of clarity, a moment in which all knowledge is revealed to you. The true knowledge is revealed to you. That is called epiphany. It's not about the years in one's life, but the life in one's years. This is called an antimetabole. Antimetabole. Remember, antimetabole and chiasmus are very similar because the words, what are these figures of speech? When a sentence has two clauses, both clauses have the same words but the order of the words is different. For example, never let a fool kiss you, never let a kiss fool you. This is chiasmus. But in antimetabole, the order is exactly reversed. Now if you read this sentence, it's not about the years in one's life, but life in one's years. Years in one's life, life in one's years. There is an exact reversal, right? So it has to be an antimetabole and not a chiasmus. This is the difference. Question 59. Students are as busy as a bee. Simple, it has to be a simile. We have discussed the other figures of speech here. Anjali has a very bubbly personality. This has to be a metaphor. So that is the material. Remember, I have rushed through the foreign words. Please go through, because there is nothing to add. Please go through them carefully. Please go through this booklet once again. Please go through the detailed solutions also. And in case of any difficulties, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Okay? Thank you very much. And please complete the homework. Thank you very much. Take care.